Joining me live now is Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's a senior fellow focusing on Iranian security and political issues at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thank you for being here. If you were looking at these negotiations taking place from Iran's perspective, how do you think they're viewing now these talks between Israel and Hamas?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. One quick note about those talks is that they're still indirect, as in mediated by the Americans, the Qataris, and the Egyptians. But make no mistake, it comes amid a much larger, I think, much more important backdrop, which is likely the potential next use of overt military action by the Islamic Republic against Israel. As we know now, about 2 weeks ago, the killing of Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas political chief in Tehran, largely believed to be done by an intelligence agency in Israel, in Tehran, is something that the Islamic Republic still wants to avenge, wash blood away with blood. And what they're trying to do now is dangle the prospect of, again, another overt direct attack, as happened in April, and get the Americans to use their restraint against Israel, America's ally, rather than use their restraint against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is the U.S. adversary. So the Islamic Republic is looking to weaponize the fear of a potential wider war to get the two partners to be limited and have to accept something like handcuffs on Israel that would be the result of a ceasefire.
We heard some speculation there in the piece. I'm curious what you think here. Do you think that Iran and maybe Hezbollah as well are waiting to see, if there is a ceasefire, then maybe they wouldn't go ahead with any kind of retaliation?
I think it's increasingly likely that this is political strategy that is underwriting the statements we see both from leaders in Beirut, but also leaders in Tehran, but also the desire, again, for that vengeance. That's quite deep. Make no mistake, the Islamic Republic was embarrassed by the way that Ismail Haniyeh was killed in Tehran, allegedly in an IRGC safe house. And they're still, again, looking to be seen as publicly atoning for that. But what they think they could accomplish is to create more dissonance between Israel and America if there's a ceasefire, and ultimately bail out Hamas, which is one other element of its axis of resistance. And this entire multi-front war that Israel has been facing has been orchestrated by the Islamic Republic to find a way to generate more political costs such that Israel will not achieve its stated military and political aims in Gaza, which is the destruction of Hamas. So that's the larger Iranian goal here.
I want to ask you about something that the chairman of the U.S. House Intelligence Committee, Mike Turner, said today. He was speaking about Iran. He said Iran could declare itself a nuclear weapons state by the end of the year as a result of Biden administration policies. Here's a bit now. Just take a listen of what he told our U.S. news partner, CBS, today.
Under the Biden administration's policy that Iran could, reports are out that Iran could declare itself a nuclear weapon state by the end of the year. You would not have had that.
Hasn't been made, has it?
No, but you would not have had that under the Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign.
What do you make of that? Do you think Rep. Turner is right? I mean, how close do you think Iran really is to becoming a nuclear-armed state?
Listen, I'm really glad you mentioned the nuclear issue because, unfortunately, the Islamic Republic is quite capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. As much as it's orchestrating this multi-front regional war that we do see in the Middle East today, it's also critically advancing its nuclear program, such that based on Axios reporting, the U.S. allegedly detected some computer modeling and metallurgy-related activity that could be tied to weaponization that they wanted the Iranians to knock off. And then that was followed by statements by Senator Lindsey Graham talking about Office of Director of National Intelligence reporting, basically revising some of its language and estimates as to the direction the regime's nuclear program is moving in. So again, they're able to advance both of these threats, the regional threat and the nuclear threat. And as the world remains fixated on a ceasefire and the post-October 7 Middle East, we have to remember that the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism is still quite interested in developing some of the most dangerous weapons that exist to man.
And there are, of course, elections here in the U.S. in November. There was a recent report by Google, I think one by Microsoft as well, that showed Iranian-backed hackers had been targeting the Trump campaign and the Biden campaigns. These were phishing attacks. How serious do you think this threat could be and could pose to U.S. elections?
I think it's a critical threat also with Russia, also with China. There's an increased willingness by the Islamic Republic to divide Americans against each other, not just on the street, but in social media and in cyberspace, to take advantage of the myriad ways in which misinformation and disinformation are unfortunately real elements of our political debate. And as the left tries to own the right and the right tries to own the left, you'll see the Islamic Republic use things like fake news outlets, spoofing of social media accounts, amplifying of certain narratives on the far left and on the far right to ultimately get a coalition that will amplify voices that have a foreign policy disposition that is more favorable to the Islamic Republic. So make no mistake, the Islamic Republic is looking at the fault lines in American society and looking to press upon them. And I only need to remind you, back in 2020, they knew enough about the threat of political violence in America that they spoofed an email coming from the group the Proud Boys.
Interesting stuff. Behnam Ben Taleblu, Senior Fellow with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thank you as always.
Thank you.